a connection. And in Washington, the Democratic National Committee is now being accused of trying to capitalize on the Boston tragedy for fundraising purposes. On Monday, the DNC issued a tweet linking to a page where people could send a message of thanks to the Boston authorities. No problem with that, right? But once you click submit, the information becomes property the DNC can use whenever it wants, and you can't send your message without providing your email, your zip code, and other personal identifying information. RNC Chair Reince Priebus says that basically means this is about adding you to their fundraising lists, and there's been a nasty exchange between the DNC and the RNC in the wake of this. Sean Spicer is the communications director of the Republican National Committee. He's with me now. Your counterpart was not able to join today. Sean, we appreciate you being here. Your boss, Reince Priebus, came out and called this disgraceful, saying the Democrats are capitalizing on terrorism to boost their fundraising lists. That's in very poor taste. They say, look, we just wanted to give our supporters an outlet to express their gratitude and support in the wake of the Boston tragedy. Your thoughts?
I think the attack last week was an attack on America. It's something that united us all in terms of our response. I don't think it's any place for politics to be involved. In fact, we at the RNC and Chairman Priebus and the rest of our team have been encouraging people to give to things like the One Boston Fund that will help provide the funds necessary for the people and the victims of this tragedy that occurred. We don't think it's appropriate to be using it to gather people's names and personal identification to then raise money off of them or identify them as potential voters or supporters. We asked the DNC to please pledge that nothing that they were doing would be used for political purposes, and they refused to do that. It's pretty clear what they have attempted to do, and it's sad to see them using a tragedy like this to build lists for political and fundraising purposes. It's just sad, and frankly, they should admit that it was a mistake, apologize, and say that it won't be used for any political purposes.
Because if you want to sign the note that the DNC is saying it will send to the first responders, you have to give your email account and your zip code to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, basically. And so I know you guys came out and said, all right, so if you're really claiming that that has nothing to do with your attempts to fundraise or improve your data mining capabilities, why don't you come right out and say that you'll never use that information for fundraising purposes or related purposes? And they did not do that. In fact, before you came on, we reached out to them and asked them directly whether they were prepared to do that as well, and we have not received any response. You know, is it beyond the pale to be asking people for their email addresses if they want to send a message of support?
I think what you want to do is tell them where they can help. I think all of us as Americans are saying, how can we help the victims of this tragedy? And that's great. We do it. Chairman Priebus has done it. We've been telling people how they can direct that compassion and feeling of that American spirit of trying to help our neighbors. But the last thing you should be doing is saying, how can we take advantage of it? And as you pointed out, when you click below it on their website, it makes it very clear that they own all of this information and that they have full authority to use it in the future going forward for any number of purposes. It's a very simple thing that they should do at the DNC and say, we made a mistake. We will not use any of this information for any purposes that are political in nature. And they refuse to do it. I think that's very, very sad. I think this is something that whether or not you're a Republican or Democrat, you should just be outraged and say we should be coming together, not trying to take advantage of a situation like this.
Well, not only are they refusing to say that they won't use it for political purposes, but as you mentioned, their website has a disclaimer saying the DNC can use the information for political purposes or even advertising if you provide it to them. I do want to ask you this. There's a columnist at the Boston Herald who came out today, and he is ticked off. And he had some criticisms of both Republicans and Democrats for arguably political moves in the wake of Boston, but he gives it to the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Joe Battenfeld, and says Debbie Wasserman Schultz should apologize immediately. And then writes, even better, how about donating some of the millions the party raises for the victims of this horrible act of terror? Do you agree that Ms. Wasserman Schultz needs to apologize for this?
I do, and I hope that this was, frankly, I really do hope that this was the mistake of a staffer that was misguided and I know the chairwoman. We disagree politically. I don't think that she or any of her senior staff would do something like this. So I'm hoping that this is a low-level staffer that made a lapse in judgment. But regardless, as it was pointed out, they should just say, we made a mistake, we apologize, and move on forward, because this isn't something that should divide us.
I think they're going a different way, because what they came out and added to their statement was what's really disgraceful here.
And now they're doubling down on the mistake.
But let me just tell the viewers, they say what's really disgraceful here is that Republicans would stoop so low as to politicize the simple act of thanking the brave men and women who put their lives on the line to keep us safe.
Right. And unfortunately, when you look at the actions that we've done, and again, I don't think this is a game of one-upsmanship. We shouldn't be trying to outdo each other on who cares more. But frankly, again, I think actions speak louder than words. What we've done at the RNC since the day of this tragedy is just point people to the places that will take their money and help them, help the victims. It's not about us collecting names. We give the website of the organizations that help, because this isn't about us. It's about the victims and the tragedy that the people of Boston and those who were visiting, because they're not all from there, obviously, underwent on that day. And so I don't think this in any way should be politicized. And frankly, again, they're trying to turn the table because they made a mistake, and now they're trying to just defend themselves as opposed to admitting the mistake and moving on.
Sean, thank you for being here.
It's politics 101, unfortunately.
Thank you for being here, Sean Spicer of the RNC. Well, a little